Today is Bo Shvat Hatashin Ayin. This is a Shir Klali for Parshas Bay. You good?
Yeah, I think so. I seem to be thinning out every time. Anyway, somebody missing. Anyway. Right, so we're turning Parsha Boi, chapter Yud. I'm sorry, Yud Aleph. Yud Aleph. Yeah, well, we'll get there eventually. I'm sorry, it's Yud Beis. Chapter Yud Beis, and it's Pasuk Vav. And we'll start off with Pasuk Gimel through to Vav. This is after Moshe Rabbeinu's what you might call final meeting and clash with Pari, in which we're informed that Pari himself says, "V'lo yisei sifu lireis ponai," you won't see me anymore, because this is more or less the end of all the warnings. Following the Machas Arbe, there remains only the Machas Bechoires. Who was that? There remains only the Machas Bechoires, and then is the actual Yetziah Mitzrayim. So then the Eibishter appears to Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron on the 10th of the month of Nisan, and he gives them the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Reish Chadoshim Rishon Hu Lachem L'Chodshei Hashana, and then he tells them the great milah of Chodesh Nisan. From now on it'll be the first of all the months of the year. And then he says, Dabru Al Kol Adas Yisrael also LaChodesh Hazeh, that on the 10th of this month, Vayichu Lahem Ish Ser Leveis Oveis Ser Labayis, that they should take a sheep, which will be it'll cover the whole family, and each house literally should have one sheep. What that's the inyan of the Korban Pesach. The Gemara and the Mishnah says in Pesachim that we don't slaughter the Korban Pesach just for one person. The Korban Pesach is a family and a group Korban. All the people in that particular house, or they can join in from other houses. They all literally sign up on the Pesach, on the Korban Pesach. And then he says, and if it'll be that if there won't be enough people in the house to purchase a full sheep, then he can bring his neighbors and other people into the signing up and the joining together on the Korban Pesach. And then he goes on to say that what are the dinim of the Korban Pesach? It has to be a complete sheep from the male species, and has to be only a ben shana v'chulu, either from sheep or from goats. Then the pasuk says, "V'hoyo lochem lemishmeres," and you should keep the sheep in the house as literally a guarding or watching, as a vigil as you might say, until Arbo Oso Yom Lachodesh Hazeh, until the 14th day, which is Erev Pesach, Yom Arbo Oso B'Nisan, V'shochatu Eisei Ko Kahal Adas Yisrael Bein Ha'ar Aboyim, and after Chatzos Hayoyim, that's Bein Ha'Aboyim, that the whole Klal Yisrael should slaughter for this Korban Pesach. So Nimtza, they had to take the Korban Pesach into their houses on the 10th day of the month. But they only had to slaughter it and offer it as Korban on the 14th day of the month. Meaning that they kept it in their houses for 4 full days. So I ask the question, why would they have to do that? So the simple answer that occurs to the intelligent reader is that there's a halacha brought down in the Gemara in the Sekta Pesachim, that if you offer up a korban, and the korban has to be tamim, like we saw here in reference to the Pesach, it's got to be free of blemishes. All the details of those blemishes, what are they, and which ones are preventative and which ones not, well, that's brought down in the Pasuk, in the Chumash in Parsha Emoyer, later on in Sefer Vayikra. The Gemara says over there that you need 4 days. You have to watch the korban that you've set aside for the korban, the animal that you've set aside for the korban, for 4 days to check that it doesn't have any blemishes. And the simple biur bezeh is that some of the blemishes are rather delicate, and what a mensch notices one day, he maybe doesn't notice the next day, and it's possible that a blemish might have been slightly hidden, and after a couple of days it'll become more noticeable, and it'll become more apparent to the observer, etc. However, we have what's called Ar V'Yomim Lebikur Hamumim. You have to literally, how do you call it, examine it and inspect it for the moment. But maybe the 4 days that they had to take the Korban Pesach, 4 days before the slaughtering of the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, maybe those 4 days were for the Bikur Hamumin, and that's really the case by every Korban. So it's pointed out in the Gemara and in the Midrashim that it's a big difference between taking the Korban Pesach and actually setting it aside as a Korban Pesach, in other words, actually naming it for what sort of Korban it's going to be. But that's called a special taking of it in order to offer it on the Mizbeach. So that doesn't have to be 4 days before in the Pesach Hadoires. In the Pesach Hadoires, you can take it for the sake of the Korban Pesach very shortly before you offer it in the Beis Hamikdash. However, you have to have in mind that you're probably going to use this and this animal, and you have to have 4 days before to watch the animal. But there's a difference between looking at the mumim on the animal and actually setting it aside as a korban for a specific korban. Therefore, we can't very well say that we need the 4 days to inspect the mumim. That's why he said to take it, because he said you have to take it for the sake of a Korban Pesach on the 10th day, which means that they kept it already set aside as a Korban Pesach, ready to offer it on the Mizbeach L'Shem Zeh, for the sake of a Korban Pesach, already 4 days ahead. And we can't really say that the Vedika of the mumim, the 4 days, that's a reason to actually take the Korban L'Shem Pesach 4 days before. You can just have any animal, watch it carefully, and then if you decide it doesn't have 4 days, doesn't have any mum, then you can take it and offer it as a korban. But here we see that there was a taking before, together with the 4 days, which means that those 4 days must have some special inyan in themselves, that you've taken it already as a korban, you're holding it 4 days before you make it into an actual korban, but puyo, by taking it and then offering it on the Mizbeach. So that's the shaila that occurs to the intelligent reader. Why do I have to? Maybe you could sit up a little bit and sit a little bit more, but that's the idea, like how do you call it, well, I didn't mean you have to change places. What I meant was you have to sit up more, properly. You know what I mean? But if you wanted to change places, then that's great. So the intelligent reader asks himself, why do we need these 4 days of the taking of the Korban Pesach and holding it in the house? And it's brought down in the Midrash that they tied it to their bedposts. To have a sheph's walking around in your house. Well, maybe I have to be careful how I use my expression. To have a sheep or a goat, walking around in your house, you have to be careful. So you have to tie it to the bedpost or tie it elsewhere, and that's in effect what they did. And they already had a kedushas korban, had already been offered and set aside especially for them. So you couldn't do anything much with it except feed it. And so therefore, it was an interesting question. Why did Hashem say that they should keep it 4 days in the house after it had already been taken as a korban? And that's a question that now we're going to see Rashi deals with it at considerable length. So we're going to just quote as briefly and swiftly as we can Rashi, and get on to the main point from which we're going to build the main discussion of the class. It should be a union of guarding or vigil or looking after. So Rashi says, Zeh Loshen Bikur. Mishmeres means to watch it or to be in a vigil. So Rashi says that's a Loshen of inspection. Shatoun Bike Mimum Abiyomim Koidem Shchito. That any korban requires inspections from how do you say mums? How do we translate it? Blemishes or defects. Aviyomim koidem shchita. So that's okay. But umipnei ma hiktim lechichosei l'shchitosei aviyomim. Ma shelo itzivo kein b'pesach hadoirois. But here it asks us the question: had it been purely the in of the mishmeres bilvad, then we would have thought, well, that's the union of the bikur aviyomim to look for the blemishes. However, together with that, the Eibishter also was maktim equal together with the bikur of the mumim. It was maktim the taking of it as a korban, a pesach l'shchitosei aviyomim, which is not the case in the pesach doires. In all the korbanos pesach afterwards, in all the generations, you don't have to take the korban pesach already as a korban 4 days before. You just have to be boiding it, but that you can be boiding it independently. You can say, well, I'd like to use this animal, I'll just watch it, and that'll be okay. If everything's fine, then I'll use it as my korban pesach. But you actually take it as a korban pesach only a short time before. So that's the question then. Why do we have these 4 days of taking the korban pesach before the shchita and the offering of the korban? Hoyer Rav Mashia ben Chorosh Omer. Now Rav Mashia ben Chorosh is one of the great Tanoim. He was in the time of the relatively early Tanoim, but he was probably slightly after the Churban Habayis, the Churban Bayis Sheni, because he had a big yeshiva in Rome. Exactly how he came to Rome and what he was doing over there in Rome, I don't know. But it seems that after the Churban Habayis, there was quite a big traffic of Yidden and Chachomim who visited and found themselves in Rome, probably due to certain requirements that the Romans had, that there should be like representatives of the Yidden around them, also to maybe have good relations with them, and to show that they were prepared to be in their country and still act the way they did in Eretz Yisrael, but to accept their leadership. Interestingly enough, it's an interesting phenomenon. Rabbi Mashia ben Chorosh was amongst those that he had a yeshiva in Rome. And the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin that it was a very, very, very good yeshiva and very powerful yeshiva that he had in Rome. And therefore the Gemara says that if you want to look for a Beis Din Yofer, a very good Beis Din, get a really good, very, very reliable and basic Pesach, then you should maybe go to Rome and look up Reb Masya ben Choresh and his Beis Din. I say it's not the Gemara in our Brisa, in Masechta Sanhedrin. So he was very powerful Rosh Hashiva and Poisik, Reb Masya ben Choresh, shortly after the Choban HaBayis, and he spent a lot of his time in Rome. And you guys should be, I don't know if you are, but maybe you could be familiar with him, because at the Alter Rebbe, at the beginning of Igeres HaTshuva, brings down the famous Shloisha Chiluchi Kaporahem, V'Tshuva Im Kolachas, that's a brisa in Masechta Yuma, and the one who actually said that brisa or revealed it was Reb Masya ben Choresh. I was brought down over there that Rabbi Shmuel came over to Rome on a visit, and Reb Masya ben Choresh asked him, had he heard about the Arba Chiluchi Kapora, 4, not 3. And so Rabbi Shmuel said, yes, he did, but Shloishahem, there's really 3 and not 4. He differed slightly on that basis with Rabbi Masya ben Choresh. And then they learned what are the 3 different forms of Torah for the 3 different types of Avedes, and that you have to have tshuva im kol echad. But that's a whole big detailed brisa that the Alter Rebbe brings in the first page of Igeres HaTeshiva. So the one who actually had that old brisa biyodeh, and he was interested, but miyuchad, we find that he mentions it in another couple of places in Divrei Chazal, that there was a speciality of Rav Masya ben Choresh, this whole concept of the Gimel Chaluchi, or the Arba Chaluchi Kapora V'Tshuva Im Kol Echad Mehem. It was a very special Indian, because it's mentioned in the Ovis to Rab Nosson and in other places. And he's also himself. The truth is that Rab Masya ben Choresh is mentioned mamish in the Mishnah, not in that regard necessarily, but in another Mishnah in the last parak of Masechta Yuma. Anyway, he was, I thought that since you guys are learning Igeres HaTshuva, that you might have come up against Rab Masya ben Choresh, even though the Alter Rebbe doesn't quote him. It just seems that maybe you had, but judging by the slightly blank looks that I'm getting from different directions, maybe you didn't, but so you do now. So what did he say, Reb Masya ben Choresh? Harei hu oimer, this is a pasuk in Yecheskel, ve'avoy alayich ve'erech ve'hinei itach eish toidim, itech eish toidim. So he said that this is a quotation from Yecheskel, where he's talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yecheskel Hanavi is repeating and arousing the Yidden to think back to all the inyanim of the going out of Egypt and all the geula that there was from Mitzrayim. He said, and I came over you and I saw you, and he said, the time for literally the union of the loved ones has come. And Eish Toidim is like the 2 partners in an inyan are got to meet up, and it's a time for what you might call simcha and union between 2 parties. Higia Shavua, so how do you call it, Reb Masya ben Choresh teaches that means to say that it's come the time of the oath, Shenishbaiti L'Avraham. I gave a oath to Avram Avinu, Goel es Bonav, that I will redeem his sons. So there we are. So that's what the Eish Doidim is referring to, the fathers and the Yidden. They're kind of like 2 united parties. And what I promised to the fathers is due to you, and therefore it's your time of Simcha has arrived. I'm going to take you out. However, he says, "V'loi hoyu b'yodam mitzvahs lisasik b'hem." He said, however, all of a sudden the Hebrews said, "Oi, I can't very well take them out because they don't have mitzvahs lisasik b'hem. They don't have any mitzvahs to busy themselves." This is before Matan Torah, so they don't have any mitzvahs yet with what to be busy. Kedei she'igo elu, in order that they should be Deem. Shenema, and if you look in the pasuk over there in Yecheskel, that he says, Va'at, area, you are literally naked and without proper clothing. What means that you have no clothing of the mitzvahs. As the one on Pnimis Advarim, the mitzvahs are called levushim. And remember, Yecheskel said to the Eden then that you didn't have anything literally to cover yourself, no levushim, meaning you didn't have any mitzvahs. V'nosan lahem shtei mitzvahs. Therefore, the Eibishter immediately decided he's going to give them two mitzvahs, dam Pesach v'dam Milah. He's going to give them the blood of the Korban Pesach and the blood of the Milah. What's Milah got to do here? Shemolu ba'isa alayla. That they, how do you call it, mold themselves on that particular night. In other words, that even though the bris had been given to Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu, all the Shvatim, they were sure circumcised, but due to the Taurus in Mitzrayim, and due to all the Inui and the hard Avidas spirit with the whole terrible Golas of Mitzrayim, then or those generations hadn't performed the mitzvahs, the mitzvahs Milah. And the Eibusha literally told them or instructed them that they should make a bris on that particular Ba'isa Halayla. Shenema mishpoiseses bedor moyev. That the Chesed said that I saw that you were literally rolling around in your own blood. However, that would have been enough to say mishpoiseses bedor domeich. But since he writes mishpoiseses bedor ma'ich, well, that's Lashon Rabim, then that means in two damim. Dam Pesach v'dam Milah. Sure. V'yomer, gam at, b'dam briseich shalakti asirayich, miboer ein mayim boy. That how do you say? That you, in the blood of your bris, then I sent out your ones who were imprisoned from the pit that has no water. That's referring to Mitzrayim. That's a pasuk in Zechariah. So we see from that there was not only the Korban Pesach, which made dam, but there was also the dam Milah, and literally the Yidden were literally rolling around in those two dams. The dam of the Korban Pesach and the dam of the bris Milah. And therefore it's written, if you look over there in the pasuk, it's written that he said, V'emeloch, and I said to you, B'domayich chayi, V'emeloch b'domayich chayi. But if you ever been at a bris, then that's what the person who says the brachas, he reads that whole passage after the first main bracha, and he quotes that whole passage from Yecheskel, and everybody says in a loud voice, V'emeloch b'domayich chayi, V'emeloch b'domayich chayi. And at that point, the Moyo takes out a little bit of wine and he puts it in the mouth of the tinoi. Are you familiar with the myth? So if you're not, well, you are now. It's well, you by Rabbi, what's your name, Sprit? I mean, you should be familiar with these inyonim. Edifer, that's the Indian for bris Milah. That's why two bloods, the dam Pesach and the dam Milah. How do I know that they made Milah? Because he says, briseich. Briseich is referring to your bris, referring to the bris Milah. I sent you out from your imprisoned ones, I sent them out from the waterless pit, what that's referring to Mitzrayim. Ushehoyu shetufim b'elilim, and since they were very, very into shtufim, means they were soaked or washed out in serving idols, alilim, omalehem, the Eibusha said to them, Mishchu chulochem seh. That's written a bit later in Pasuk Koftalet, a bit further ahead, that the Eibusha, when he gives the dinim of the Korban Pesach, And he said that you must make a mashiach, you must pull or draw and take with you the union of the seh. And the union of drawing is what's called a kinyan mashiach. In order for you to actually possess the animal, you have to make a kinyan, and that's the union of kinyan mashiach. However, the Medrash teaches on that, mishchu yedechem me'alilim. You must pull your hands away from Aveda Zorah. V'chulachem tzayin shel mitzvah. And you must take a sheep or a member of a flock, which is a mitzvah. Yeah? In other words, what does it mean by that? Tzayin shel mitzvah. Because the Mitzrayim, they used to also make Avodah Zarah with sheep, but they used to serve the sheep. It was a holy animal by them. And here the Eivsha says, you must take your hands away from the sheep as you've used it up to now for Avodah Zarah, and you must take a sheep of a mitzvah to the Eivsha, the Hepech of Avodah Zarah. That's basically what he means with that set. So we see quite a complex Rashi, and we see that the main shaila in Rashi is that we can't say that even though Mishmeres implies Bikur, and that's for sure that they had to make Bikur, but that's not the whole reason why they had to have the Lechichas, the taking and the Korban 4 days before. Why did they have to have the whole taking ready to be a Korban? Oh, the Korban Pesach 4 days before. And in the middle he gets into the whole, it was Dam Mila and Dam Pesach, the whole Arichas in the middle about what appears to be a very special Arichas in a Ruchninstik Indian of it, not necessarily to do mamish with the Pshat. And then at the end he says, oh yes, the reason was that because they were Shtufim Ba'alilim, therefore the Eivsha said you must take your hands away from Avodah Zorah, and you must take this mitzvah, take it as a mitzvah already then, and keep it 4 days in your hands, and that'll be the way of taking your hands away from Avodah Zarah, that you'll have 4 days to think carefully over, get out of the Avodah Zarah and get into mitzvah. So that's give the beginning and the end. What's the whole piece in the middle about the down middle of Reb Mashiach ben Chorash? What does he come into the whole picture in the middle? And particularly, that if we look in the Mechilta, where that all occurred, that's a famous medrash on Shmois, which is Miyuchas, the Mechilta, the Miyuchas Rabbi Shmuel, I think. That's the Mechilta on Sefer Shmois. There's a difference of opinion over there, what appears to be a difference of opinion in that pasuk V'hoya lechem mishmeres between Rabbi Mashiach ben Chorash and Rabbi Elazar HaKapor. He's called Rabbi Elazar HaKapor. But he was also a very big leading figure at that time. He was one of the Rosh Yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Elazar HaKapor. He differs a little bit with Rabbi Mashiach ben Chorash, and he says they didn't need the Dam Mitzvah, the Dam Pesach and the Dam Milah. They already had certain things to their great schus, the Yidden, that they hadn't changed their names. They always kept the Jewish names, and they didn't change their way of dress. They were always noticeable as Yidden. They kept their dress. And other 4 famous things that the Yidden always preserved. They didn't change their language. They always spoke in Lashon Kodesh. So Rabbi Elazar HaKapor, he says they had already these 4 things, and that was enough for them to be redeemed, or that was the mitzvah through which they could be redeemed. And he said, why did they need 4 days? So he said they needed 4 days in order to literally get rid of the Avodah Zarah and get into the inner of a mitzvah. Therefore they took the thing as a mitzvah already at the beginning of the 4 days, and they held it in their house, and that was to help them take their hands away from the Avodah Zarah. Now that's a quote from Rabbi Elazar HaKapor, and that would appear to be a difference with Rabbi Mashiach ben Chorash. And Rashi just brings all in one continuation, till everybody is okay and everybody agrees with with everybody, and that Rav Moshe because is his part, and then he can sort of whip in at the end what Rav Elazar Kapor said, and that seems to fix everything up. When it looks careful, well, if you look carefully in the Indian at the Mechilta, it seems to be a different opinion, and he doesn't mention Rav Elazar Kapor at all, even though his words are mentioned, but he does mention Rabbi Moshe ben Chora. So I thought to Shaila, who should do it? And comes along the Sifsei Chachamim, and the Sifsei Chachamim says, well, it's all very fine. Both of them say, both Rabbi Moshe ben Choresh and Rabbi Elazar Kapor, they say you have to have 4 days, you had to have 4 days to get rid of the Avodah Zarah, according to Rabbi Elazar Kapor. According to Rabbi Moshe ben Choresh, you had to have 4 days, to prepare for the Dam Pesach. The Dam Pesach was on the night of the going out of Egypt. And the Dam Milah. But nobody really says, why did it have to be 4 days? What's in it 4 days? Give them 1 day. Give them 2 days. It was 4 days. And that's the whole question in Rashi. And nobody seems to answer it clearly. Rabbi Moshe ben Choresh starts talking about other things, like in the middle, and then all of a sudden at the end we say, oh yes, it was 4 days, the Shetufim, and they were given the 4 days to get rid of it literally, and make sure that the train would be offered up to the sake of the Eibishter for a mitzvah. So it comes along the Rebbe in Asicha, where he deals with this whole inyan of Rabbi Moshe ben Choresh, the whole inyan of this inyan. And the Rebbe says an amazing thing, that L'chayra, the Sifsei Chachamim, has got a point when he says that who actually answered the 4 days. I mean, where does the 4 days fit in here? And he says that Rashi, it's an amazing case where Rashi's already told us that you need 4 days. Or the 4 days is a speciality in an inyan of this particular import. So where have we been? I bet you'll never chap it. Where we had 4 days. So the Rebbe said that the people who were shtufim b'avodah zarah, and they were mamish caught up, and we'll see towards the end of the class that the whole ikar at the Golos in Mitzrayim wasn't just the Golos Gashmi, that was bad enough, but the ikar was the Golos Ruchni, that they were soaked into the avodah zarah, into all the inyanim of the Mitzrayim, with all the terrible tumah that there was in Mitzrayim. What they're going to do is, until they reached almost the Shar Anun, like we brought down last week, that the Rizal said that they had to be got out very swiftly, because had they entered the Shar Anun, they would never been able to get them out. Kiyadua Umafurusam. Therefore, asked himself to Shaila, how come that they were able to get out of that whole tumah and get into the inyan of being able to offer the Korban Pesach L'Shem mitzvah for the sake of the Eibishter. And therefore they needed time, as it were, to stew things over. They needed time to do things in a proper way, because if you do things in a happish way, then you're likely to just go back on yourself. Therefore you have to do it in a way that you weren't rushed into it, but we can satisfy ourselves by saying that you did it yourself with a full das, and that will be accepted, that you went out of that inyan with your own das. So the Rebbe says that we see it by the Akedah, Shal Yitzchak mit Avraham Avinu. Rashi brings down over there, why is it that the Eibusha gave Avraham Avinu, he gave him what boils down to 4 days. That it took him 3 days to get to actually see where the mountain was. By the time they actually got themselves organized, went up onto the mountain, when they come to do it, it's already 4 days. Yeah, if we take also a little bit before the 3 days that Avraham was slept overnight with the whole thing, so altogether it's 4 days. And so the Rashi brings it over there. Why did the Eibusha do it that way? In order that people shouldn't say, oh, Nitra Farov Daita, he went a little bit, he got tremendously mavulba of what the Eibusha said to him, and he didn't have a chance to sort it out, and he just rushed in, did it. And if we see from that when can a mensch change his whole of life. Avraham Avinu, instead of being a Ish Chesed, turned into a Ish Gvura in the most amazing form, and he offered up his own son. Well, that is a change. Yeah? So we see that the Eivsher gave him 4 days. In other words, in order that we could be sure that he's doing it purely out of his own self. Not a bad chap. So the Rebbe said that therefore, that's why Rashi stresses that they were shtufim b'Avodah Zorah. And the whole reason of taking the set into the house was to get rid of the Avodah Zorah out of their minds and their systems and offer up a Tzoyin Shel Mitzvah. Therefore, they needed these 4 days. And does it the Teret? And if it's not written mafurish how many days, what are the 4 days? What's the purest 4 days? Because Rashi's already hinted to you that if you want to change yourself from one whole shitta of life to another, then you need at least 4 days in order that people should say that you did it yourself and you didn't do it in a unbalanced rush. And if you did an unbalanced rush, then who knows, you might all of a sudden in another half an hour get another idea.
Why do you need 4 days? Why not 5? Why not 3?
Well, Rashi's already told us over there that it takes 4 days for a man to be Mishyasha.
That's the Parsh in Rashi?
That's what Rashi said over there. He brought down that why did he give him 3 days to travel and then afterwards took another day, like I said, but still, in order that it shouldn't be a chashash that he did it in a rush. Well, from that we see that it takes 4 days to settle in your mind. Emma, Lafisha, that's an amazing chap, unbelievable. In the middle comes along the Rashi and he brings the whole Indian for Mashu Ben Choresh with the Dam Pesach and the Dam Milo. So we have to understand, what's that got to do with it? Rashi could have put the first part and the last part, and he could have more or less agreed with Rabbi Elazar HaKapah that they had 4 days to get rid. What sort of mitzvahs they need? Mitzvahs. They had all these good things that they didn't change their names and all the rest of it. What you have to bring in Mashu Ben Choresh in the middle with this whole thing of Dam Pesach and Dam Mila. And also, it's interesting that he said they didn't have mitzvahs with which to be misasek. And only days there they would be they would be nigolim, and therefore he gave them these 2 mitzvahs. And he doesn't say mitzvahs called Pesach and mitzvahs Mila, but he says Dam Pesach and Dam Mila. Dam Pesach and Dam Mila. I mean, the Dam is only a part of the mitzvah, and by Mila, I don't know if the Dam is really the mitzvah. I mean, by the Korban Pesach, the Dam has to be there in order to throw it onto the Yesod HaMizbeach. The whole Indian of the Korban Pesach is Dam Pesach. And by Mila, and therefore Rashi says, no, what are the 2 mitzvahs? Dam Pesach and Dam Mila. Is my Dam Lepo. What's it? He mentions that. He said, I saw you mispoises bedomai, bedomai chayi, the dafki in the dam and everything you get, and that's usually a sign of collapse and of misa. Well, that's going to bring you to everlasting life and to everything. No, but that's in the Novi, that's in the Yechezkel Novi, that's his symbolism and his way of describing all things, but he was only hundreds and hundreds of years later after it's his mitzvah. What is the in? And Rashi nonetheless uses Yechezkel Novi's marshal, and he said, what are the 2 mitzvahs? Dam Pesach and Dam Mila, and he said that they couldn't have got out if it hadn't been that they had mitzvahs, l'sasek per him. So it's got to be busy with the mitzvah. You got to be mishasek with a mitzvah. By his man, that Rashi himself said that the time has come to keep the shvur that I made to the Ovid. I mean, you got to keep the shvur that you made to the Ovid. You don't even have mitzvah just because there was a shvur to the Ovid. Take him out. It's also brought down in the Medrash, and Rashi brings it down over there in Pasha Va'era. The Abishah was worried about Avraham Avinu. How's he going to go to Avraham Avinu and face him if he doesn't keep his promise and take out the That the Yidden, one of the main factors that the Abish took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim was that he promised the Ovid. As if he promised the Ovid. What did he need him to have mitzvahs for? He promised the Ovid. And he swore to them. So what's this whole Indian becloud that they need to have mitzvahs? Because even Rebbe Elazar Kapor, even he agrees that they have to have mitzvahs. But he said they already had them. So Rav Masha ben Hamid, he says, oh no, you got to have mitzvahs like Mila and Pesach, and Dam Mila and Dam Pesach. We have to say that adds to the whole idea that Rashi bases the whole thing on, that they needed the 4 days to get out of Avodah, Zarah, that to leave behind Avodah Zarah. Well, this is Indian Ikri in the ganze Indian here, to change their whole lives, to get out of the tumor of the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim, and be ready to do a great mitzvah of the Indian of Korban Pesach. So the Far comes again the Maharal Prague in his Pirush Gur Arya ala Torah, which is a Pirush on Rashi ala Torah. And the Maharal Prague says a very amazing yesod, which almost answers the main question we just asked. It certainly deals with it. The Maharal Prague says that the 2 mitzvahs, Mila and Pesach, are necessary in order for the Yidden to eventually become what the Eibishter wanted of them, the people who would be makabel the Torah through going out of Mitzrayim. And he says like this: the Iker Inyan of Yetzias Mitzrayim is that the Eibishter became avodim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that was written in Pasha B'Chukoisai near the end, isn't it? Hello? Isn't it? Yes, I know, but I very much appreciate you looking at some sort of purity. But you have to listen to what we're saying, otherwise you don't keep the hemshah. And if says the Pasuk over there in Vayikra, Kili B'nei Yisrael Avodim, Avodai Heim. That the Yidden are my servants, or they are servants to me, they're my avodim. Kilo, almost doubling it up. Comes on Rashi over there, and Rashi says, V'loi avodim le'avodim. They're not evids to other evids. In other words, that if you're an evid to a Ben Adam, then you're an evid to a evid. But if you're evid to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, you're an evid to the Evish. You're an emissary evid. As I state dort in Rashi, and as I sagt the Pasuk. And if I sagt the Maharal Prague, how is it that Yidden went out of Mitzrayim and they became the Jewish people? They became avodim again. They left behind the Abdus of Mitzrayim and they became avodim of the Eibishter. And they became mamish servants and slaves of the Eibishter. Hij zegt to Maharal Prague. So we say in Mariv every night. What do we say in Mariv? We avodim. No, they took us out to be l'cheirus olam, for everlasting freedom. Says the Maharal Prague, oh no, the Eibishter took you out to be mamish his slaves, to be mamish his avodim. And he said, that's how he got you out of Egypt, because when you were in Egypt, you were avodim la'avodim. How did he get you out? He made you his avodim. And since he's the balabas of the whole world, he became his avodim. Then he said, what are you doing over there by them? You belong to me. Nimmt gewaltige Yesod in the Maharal Prague, that the way to emes acherus is avdus. But what sort of avdus? Avdus to the Eibishter. You become the Eibishter's Eved. Oh, that's the best way to be free forever. Chayrus Olam, not only forever, but also in the highest possible way. Chayrus. You become a free agent, and you're not a slave to anybody, you're only a slave to the Eibishter, and then you become beyond all the union of the world. You're not really a slave to anybody, and you're certainly not a slave to Hashem, but you are. You're a slave, but He makes you absolutely what you're meant to be, and you become the highest possible free agent that there is in the whole world. That's an amazing idea. The whole way to go out of Meitzarim Ugvulim is to be the Eibishter's. And therefore, by Matan Torah, the first mitzvah is Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Okay, I am the Eibishter, but what did I do? Asher hoitzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. So the Rabbeinu Yehuda Levi asked the famous Kachi, the Ebenezer, brings it down. He says, we're over there, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher barasi shamayim v'artz. I should tell you, I'm the Eibishter who created the whole world. I created the whole world. I take you from my pure and I give you the Torah. But some say, Asher hoitzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. As it the Rabbeinu Yehuda Levi gefragt the Ebenezer Kachi. Sagt der Rabbi Yehuda Levi a teret. And he says that to take you out of Mitzrayim means out of all limitations and all quality. In other words, Mitzrayim is indicative of the whole concept of limitation. Mitzrayim Meitzah, Agvul. And the Eibishter took us completely out of all Gevulim, and comes along Siddur and says, not just the Gevulim down here in this world and the limitations, but even the limitations of the Kelim of Atzilus, and even the limitations of the Tzimtzum HaRishain, but right up to Mamish Atzma saying, say, that's the touch, Asher Baras, not Baras Shamayim words. Baras Shamayim words the other way down. He went down into the Tzimtzum, he went through the Tzimtzum, he went into the Kelim of Atzilus, and like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that from the Kelim of Atzilus, he made the Kelim of Bria, Yitzira, Vatiyah, and he made this, and he made this, all sorts of Tzimtzumim. He had to make the heavens and the earth. But if you go out of Mitzrayim, you go exactly the other way up. You go up through the whole thing, and you literally, to use the expression, you blow them all. You just go out of all those limitations, and you and the Eibishter are one union. Kaviyachol, you only have to do with the Rabbeinu Shalom Atzma Seinse. Now that's not written in the Maharal Prague. Mamish, but that's what he means. In other words, the Maharal Prague says that on the day when you completely become an Eved to a Kodesh Baruch, and you become absolute, even away with Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shemayim to Hashem, that is the greatest freedom of all. Then you're beyond everything. You're not limited by anything. And then what's brought down in the Mishnah, in the Hoydiyos, where the Mishnah says over there that who is a Nasi? Where is the Emes a Nasi? She'ein Allah Ela Hashem Ela. He doesn't have anybody over him, only the Eibishter. He's completely and utterly answerable to the Eibishter. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, Ein Allah Ela Hashem Ela. Meaning there's nothing can possibly dictate or say anything to him, only the Eibishter. And that was the Rebbe. So the Rebbe was the person in the whole world that only what was written in the Torah made any sense to him. All the rest of it, there was just, could be a lot of mistaken decisions. But if you went only by the Torah and you were governed only by Hashem Elokav, then you're on the right path. That's what the Maharal Prague, that's his Yesod. And therefore he says that a Eved has to have a choisim. How do you call it? The avodim. In the old days, the avodim, the avodim Kananim, they used to have like a, how they call a choisim on them, saying that they belonged to Kloinil. They were Eved. And so therefore the Gemara Masechet Shabbos in Dort brings down if a Eved is allowed to go out in the Rishus Harabim on Shabbos, because he's got a din of L'chol Pochas Aisha, the Isurim of Shabbos Hachal on him, if he's allowed to go out when he's chosim, is it considered part of his body, or is it considered like a tachshit or a thing that he's wearing? The old child in the Gemara do it because he has to always be wearing his stamp, his chotem. He's got a sort of a chotem on him that he's a Eved. So the Maharal Miprak says that is the Indian of the bris milah we carry around. Yeah, al bris shechasamto bivso. Well, you say it every day, and well, I don't know if you eat every day bread, but if you do, yeah, then you bench. Well, the Chol focus once a week on Shabbos, you bench. Unless you like to eat it, they do them so late. On Shabbos they don't find anything left, no crumbs, no nothing. They just have to do until after Havdalah, and then maybe they get a bit of a sort of after Havdalah v'chulu. Sometime during the week you bench. So it's written in the bench, Val Brish Chosh Shechasamto Bivso. Sorry. It's a chaysim. It's like, so the Maharal Miprak says, well, when you have a bris, well, that puts into your basar, or the stamp, that people know that that's a person, that he is completely sold to the Ev. He doesn't belong to anybody, he doesn't belong to Kain Goyim, to Kain Mention, Kain government, nobody, nothing. He belongs only to the Eivishter. And if the halacha will tell him that he's got to do it a certain government, he's got to relate to a certain person, okay, then he'll do it only because the Eivishter does it. And the Indian from Korban Pesach, he said, once you become a Eved, or you sit around and smoke a cigar the whole of your life, then you're not an Eved. What did he pay the money for? The audit to get you, he got into in order that you do things for him. Yeah? So he said, what does he do? A master, when he buys an Eved, he buys it first. He puts his stamp on him, and then he says, listen here, man, this is what you got to do. This is your daily agenda, and this is what I want of you, and that has to be made clear. And the Eved's got to do it. He's got to start, and the first task that he starts, that's how the master gets an idea if he's a good Eved or not. So therefore, mitzvah Korban Pesach is a mitzvah klolius, says the Maharal. It's like the first moving in to show what sort of an Eved you are. And remember, you have to do the first job very, very capably, with a lot of Mesiras Nefesh. And if you do it that way, then he sees, oh, this is a good Eved. Yeah. In other words, that's already the beginning. The Korban Pesach is the first move as an Eved, and that fixes your Metzias later on as a capable and functioning Eved. What you got to do with the general shaila? What do we need to take the Pesach into our houses for? They're going to do it. So therefore, the Maharal Miprak would say that on the day that you became an Eved to the Eibishter Mamish, you automatically got out of Avodah Zarah. That was the way that you got yourself out of the whole Inyan of Avodah Zarah. That was the way of knowing that you were no longer Eved over here. Chas v'shalom, you were an Eved only to the Boirei Oilam. And you were chayiv avidosai, and you have to take the same thing that you were serving as a Avodah Zarah, you have to take that as a tzayin shel mitzvah. You have to make it mamish. What could be greater? That's the greatest way that the mensch moves out of that whole inyan of the Avodah Zarah. But it's only the shayla. Why did you need 4 days? But the Rebbe already answered that one. The Rabbi Sori gesagt, was in the field, it said. In fact, we see here a Moedic principle, and yet the Maharal Miprak says, based on what Rashi says, that you have to have something to be misasik by him. In order to get out of and be really ra'ui l'geula, you've got to be busy, mamish b'poil, in your guf. So the meal is like a preparation. Yeah, but it's a preparation where you also have to be doing something with your guf. You have to schneid your guf. Yeah, and you have to hope that everything's going to be okay, and you have to let blood in the whole aricha shayinyan. And then you have to get moving with the Avodah Korban Pesach, which is our Avodah Kloliyos. The only thing is, it's very interesting. If you look up in the Mechilta, there's another expression over there what Rashi doesn't bring. And it's written at the ends of the words of Rashi ben Chorash that he said that they had to have mitzvahs. Kedei l'sasik bohem, zot Rashi ben Chorash, ki ein sachar ela al yedei ma'aseh. That you don't get reward only if you do something. If you do something, then you get reward. Rashi doesn't bring that lesson. In other words, in order to get them out of Mitzrayim, well, that's a great reward, they had to do some things. And they had to be in an oven from Misasik by him. And that's a klal. You don't get any reward unless you do something. Yeah, mice. So comes on the Rabbeinu Moshe Alshich in his Sefer, Al Torah, the Alshich. The Alshich says, why wasn't it enough? Rashi himself begins that he gave a statement that I swore to the forefathers. Why isn't that enough? That should be enough to take him out. Yeah? And from Rashi it would appear that that's only like a reason that I got to do it now, because since I the forefathers, I got to get you guys out some way. I can't get you out, but you got to do something. It's a whole. Why isn't the etzim shavua to the forefathers? Why isn't that enough? Dr. Moshe Alshich, that he brings a moshe. Let's say a father has a son, and he wants to give his son, how do you call it, an everlasting, or an everlasting way in life. It will fit him for the rest of his life, and that everything will be good. Or let's say it's not his father, it's his uncle or somebody like that, let's say. And he was very, very close with the boy's father, and he promised the boy's father that he would look after him. So he said, there's two ways he can go about it. He said, well, I promised his father I have to do it, and he doesn't care what the boy's like. And it could be a few weeks later, the boy will throw a pudding in his face or something and say, I don't want anything to do with it. Thank you for what you gave me. He also won't say, he'll just put it in his pocket and disappear. In other words, that there's no surety that just because of an undertaking with somebody like the forefather, you can't be sure what's going to be with the makabel. I am a geulas oilam. I am taking out absolute geula. You got to have that the people who are being redeemed, they're going to be worthy and ready to live a life of redemption. That they will always be in that oven, and they will never go. They'll never go back. And it could be they won't be perfect, and they might occasionally do a sin, or they might miss out on the plan which he gives them. But since they showed at the beginning what they really want, or how they really want to function, and they showed an emskite, right from the very beginning, and that carries on. If they have a fault every now and then, what will he do? He'll forgive them. Because they'll say to them, these guys really mean business. They have a little fault every now and then. I have to give them a bit of a schmiz. But once we've done that, we forgive them. And sometimes even no need for a schmiz. The Yidden will just say, look, we're really yours, Eibishter. We just had a weak moment. So they would say, fine. And every Yom Kippur, that's what it's all about. This is fine. Back to where we started. So the Alshich says that's only when the people themselves show that they themselves want the Geula. But not that the Geula is only mitzad a promise that's made to the forefathers. The Eibishter has to get involved in the end because of the promise he made to the forefathers, but that the Gula should be a Gula in a way that it'll last mitzad the Mekabel, and it'll be a Geula ad seif kol azman, ad seif the Mekabelim are going to do it, and they got to show and give to their zera achareim that we're committed ad oilo. And this Geula is a Gula, and if we have to have the Aziz of the Rabbeinu Moshe Alshich. However, is l'chera efshar hamish et Yesod there, also into the Rashi, Bepashtes, and into the Biur, the Maral Miprag, al Rashi. That's the ties. The Rebbe Moshe ben Choresh is coming along to say that we've got to have a inyan ki ein shachar b'li mounds. If there's no meiser, then you don't get reward. And that's why Rebbe Moshe ben Choresh is particularly in his opinion, and in that prat he differs with Rebbe Elazar HaKapor. Not that he differs with him in everything. But in that part he differs with that problem with, because Rabbi Elazar ben Kapor, he says that they had this in there, that they didn't change their names, they didn't change their language, they didn't do this and they didn't do that. In other words, mitzvah is lo yisaseh, as a word, the negative. That the Yidden are very careful, they're guarding, that they weren't involved in Lashon Hara, and they weren't involved in Chashon and Arayas, in how they called forbidden interrelations and so on. They were very guarded. They were very, so Rabbi Elazar HaKapor said that's enough to get them out. So that's the main difference between him and Rabbi Moshe ben Choresh. That Rabbi Moshe ben Choresh said, Tzachar, such a reward like the Geula, you only get from Moshe. You've got to be busy with something. Rabbi Elazar said, so comes along citizens must be, what would Tzachar be shy to Davki doing something? Because when you do something, you get up and you alter the situation of yourself, in your own self, and you alter the situation of the world. You're actually calm, you're getting up and you're doing, and a siyah itself is a form of a kli. And a kli is mamshich, a new word into the whole situation. Mitzvahs lo yisaseh, a negative thing, is very high. It's considered a very high shorage. It's got, in some ways, a high. Look in the first page of Igel Satshuva, Zecha Azay Mashma, in the Alter Rebbe. However, the inyan of a mitzvahs lo yisaseh is a guarding against any improper things like clippers and all that sort shouldn't be able to get at you. And a mitzvahs lo yisaseh is marachik, the bilti ratzui, and the mitzvah saseh brings the ratzui into kelim, and kelim shonim. The ikedin of Eloi saseh is to guard yourself from the achiza and from the hold and the unique of the clippers. So the mitzvah loisa makes you very perfect, clean. It makes you very clean and guarded, clean. It comes from a very high source. But if you don't make the mitzvah saseh, you don't bring any oil. I'm going to give us a tube on the first page, and you'll see. Das mamish what the Alter Rebbe said. That the inner of a mitzvah saseh is to bring down oil. And that is the ikeh, sof kol sof nisava kodesh baruch hu, liyish loyish barak dira betach toinim. Dira betach toinim is davke alidei inyonim shel asiyah b'poyah. And the mitzvahs lo yisaseh are very high, but therein is to keep away all the, unclean shrotzim and ramoshim that they want to get hold and pricharayim and ruin the whole inyan of the dira. And you keep them away and you purify yourself, to cleanse yourself, and then you bring down alidei the oil. That's the difference. Rabbi Elazar ben Choresh, Moshe ben Choresh, he says that the ikeh schar in this world is always from doing things. The mitzvah leisa says not so much a schar, it's like a purity that you bring into yourself. That's a very high inyan. But he said, mamish, to be paid a reward is when you made a vessel for that reward. You had it good, you made kelim, and you made the world a better place, and you change the world, and then you get a oil which is nimsha into the world. And therefore he said you have to have mitzvahs asay, and that's what the Rebbe says, the ikeh is ma'aser. You got to do things b'poil, you got to be busy, with the guf and with the nefesh kam yachad, in the inyan for asiyah b'poil. And ain't tzachar ela alidei ma'aser. You don't get reward only for man. And that's the main, as a word, difference, that you can't bring to Geulas Olam only through lo yisaseh, only through good but negative commandments. You got to have the poel mamish, and that brings the inyan of Geulas Olam. That's the difference between Rabbi Elazar HaKapor and Rabbi Moshe ben Ben Choresh. Oh, but when I get to the Etzeminium, why they needed 4 days was to get out of Avodah Zarah. Everybody agreed. And if Rashi just brings it down, and it's all part of the same Emsa. And the difference between Rabbi Moshe Ben Choresh and Rabbi Loz is like in the middle. It's like how to go about the whole thing. What is the Ika sort of the whole Hatzlocha B'dor? That's where they differ. And if bringt the Rebbe dort in dem Sicha an amazing Inyan. And he says, why is it Rabbi Moshe Ben Choresh? Rashi doesn't always, if Rabbi Elazar Kapor, Rashi doesn't mention him. Because his name is not so important here, for some reason that Rashi knew. He just hints at his opinion as part of the whole picture. But, he said, Moshe Ben Choresh, Rashi does mention him, he mentions him by name. So the Rebbe's got a cloud that whenever Rashi mentions the name of the Tanoim or the Amoraim, that helps us understand, just the name of the person helps us understand and reminds us about the whole Inyan. So like we said, it's brought down to Rav Moshe Ben Choresh. He had a big yeshiva, and he had a bezdin, and he was very powerful, but where was he? In Rome, he had it in Rome. So the Rebbe said, Rome is not Eretz Yisrael, Rome is Chutz La'aretz. And Rome is the Inyan of the Golas. And yet nonetheless we see that Rabbi Moshe Ben Choresh, Dafki in the Golas, and Dafki after the Churban, and after those who destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Moshe Ben Choresh looked at him and he held a yeshiva, mamish under their noses. And he had a yeshiva gedula, but they were learning Torah, and they were megala, all sorts of oiros, and they were giving instructions to the Yidden right under the noses of the conquering nation called the Romans, Yamach Shemo. And if says the Rebbe, that's a tremendous kunz of indicative how to get out of the Golas, even though you're in the Golas, but really you're really not. And if Moshe Ben Choresh says the Ika is the Maisa. I wasn't a Maisa, I was sitting learning. The Maisa is that they went with the yeshiva into Rome, and they sat there and they were giving out Oirah and instruction. And if the Gemara said, you want a good psak and you want a good way to know what you're doing, halach, Achar Rav Moshe Ben Choresh l'Roimi. Go take a ship all the way to Rome and learn what Rabbi Moshe Ben Choresh said. And his best. What with all the best in the Eretz Yisrael? Nishginik? If you want really to know what to do, you have to. And himself, he's there. That's very similar. The Beis Rabbeinu Hashem Bavel. It's over there in Bavel. But until Mashiach will be Mamish Mishkale, and the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi will appear, you have to go to 770. Will Smith was Tati, and Will Smith would we can suggest that that's the Indian, just by way of tips. Everybody's saying Ad Masai. That's just by way we can say that's the two inyanim of Dam Pesach and Dam Mila. Dafki the Dam. So what did we learn earlier? That one of the Ika Machis was Dam. The water turned into Dam. When Moshe Rabbeinu first came, the Eibster told him that even for the Yidden that's a good one. Yeah, you'll throw some water to the ground, it'll turn into Dam. So we see water turning into Dam is a big issue, but as a marshal and a way of breaking the whole Indian of time. I like the Rabbeinu Moshe Alshik over there, he learns that the Indian at the Korban Pesach would like to break the tumor of Mitzrayim. That represented their whole of Zara. That was to get rid of the tumor. And the Mila was to like going into the Kedusha, taking on your own goof. Yeah, the Indian from Kedusha. And if it follows, I was going to make a point, it jumped out of my mind. I can't think of what I was going to say. But anyway, it's Rafisa, what was I talking about?
Go to 770.
Oh yeah. In other words, we're talking about the Indian at the Kilos Davki, in the Mokim, the Golas itself. Davki there to be Mahapach, the whole Choshik for the Golas. The day Limud, and Davki Limud, Hamevili di Maisa, Halachach, Achrei, Rabbi Moshe Ben Choresh, L'Roimi, if you want Psak Din and you want Maisa, Bapuyo, then you go there. At Davki Ali, they say we make the in and the Diril is Barapa, but between him. And if that's what the Rashi brings Reb Masya ben Choros, he mentions him especially by name. Ilu Rabbi Elazar ben Kappa's opinion is also hinted at. We don't need his name. I mean, he was tremendously great. But in this Indian, we need to mention him. But the Ik is Chayes. The Ik is, how do you call it, Lebedigkeit. Chayes, Dam Mila, Dam Pesach. And on the night of Pesach, we also mentioned the Ava Machir, we pour out the wine, and all. It's all indicatory of Chayes. The Indian for Dam, Chayes. And the difference between water and Dam is that water helps the Dam flow around in your body. But what actually makes things koch, what actually makes things live, what actually makes things jump and spring, what actually gives you the power to do all of the inyanim, but poil mamish is the Dam. Dam brings to warmth, and warmth brings to poil mamish. Cold is not good. Frozenness and cold, even just quiet coldness like water, that's not the way that things are really going to clap. They have to clap with lebedigkeit and with energy and with maisa, dam. And if Rashi stresses that it's dam Pesach and dam Mila, those are the two inyanim of the entry of the Jewish people into the Shibud to Hashem. And on the day that Shibud, they throw off all the Shibud and they become a vodim lo yizborah. And Mamela felt to back the whole and Mamela is also funny, but that was the way to get out of the tumah of Aveda. So it was a way to in those 4 days to throw it off, to prepare yourself. So comes along the Alshik, and he differs slightly with the famous Medrash, which tells us, he says that that's an opinion, but we don't never necessarily have to hold that way, and he's got other opinions. That there was this opinion that holds that they made the Mila on the night of Pesach. That they made the Mila just before they actually offered the Korban Pesach. Because somebody who's got a orla is not allowed to offer the Korban Pesach. And so the Rebbe's got all sich about it. How could they do it? I mean, where they have moyalim, and Zayful Toys and moyalim and the whole thing. So the Rebbe brings a medicine. They all pulled out their swords. You know, and opened their mouths. They all pulled out their swords. All the Yidden that had swords, and on the spot they mauled themselves. On the spot they mauled themselves. You guys don't know from the whole arena, the whole sich of the Rebbe about it. And then the Rebbe's got a shaila, you know, how that first of all, you know, to do it with a sword, and to do it with a sword, that's a bit of a shaila. And the second shaila is that they did it at night, you know, and you can't make meal at night time. Ain't meal belayla was absurd. So and also you can't see so good at night time. So the Rebbe brings down a whole amazing pilpul that they could do it at night, and a hen and a herd. So the Alshik says a very interesting thing. Alshik, he says no. Why did they have these 4 days? Not to taste it. They had to make the meal in the last minute before. They had 4 days to get ready for the Korban Pesach. They'd already made it into a Korban to prepare themselves. And also in 4 days you can make meal and you can already be healed in 4 days. Yeah. 3 days of prayer going. The 4th day, it's already better. And he says a very interesting Hamtzah that who said that maybe they made the meal during the beginning of the 4 days. So at the end of the 4 days they're already, you know, then they got a proper moil or something to do. But according to that Medrash, what the Rebbe learns that way, you know, or upon in that Medrash, that's how he learns it. That the Yidden, they really got cracking. Pulled out their swords, and they carried out their mitzvah on the spot. However, it shouldn't be However, it shouldn't be Lefisa. We see that the Yidden really got, you know, verkocht. That's only day, the Indian of the Chayes and the Dam, and the, you know, we says it, the Damai, Wemel, the Damai, Chayi, Dafki in the Dam, Dafki, this the Chayes, the Dam Mila, the Dam Pesach, the Al Inyanim. That's how we, Beis Hashem, Not just negative, but doing. Therefore, the Rebbe wants me to tell him. He wants it. The way to bring to Emes Geulas Olam is Maisa, doing, going out and training and doing and being mahap of the world and doing good things. Dafki b'Maisa. And being mesuseh, being busy, misaskim b'hem. It's so obvious, Rashi. It jumps out and hits you in the eye that they do Lashenis. Oh, but that's a Lashenis in the Mechilta. Rashi quotes it almost directly from the Mechilta. And we have to learn from that we're approaching now towards the Indian of Bo Shvat. But hopefully by Bo Shvat we'll have already the Rebbe. Amen. And the Indian of Bo Shvat is Kabbalah's Hamalchis. Receiving the Rebbe's kingship upon ourselves, and even Kabbalah's Hamalchis, and the tremendous recognition of the Frierdiker Rebbe is unbelievable, Mesilas Nefesh, and preparing the whole world for the Gilui of Mashiach Alidei, the Rebbe. Therefore, we have to have the union of Dam Pesach and Dam Mila. We're going to take away all the orla, all the false skin, and we're going to do it with chayes and with leviticite. We're going to become involved in Avedis Hashem. Eating from Pesach, like the Maram Miprag said, that's the second that you show with one mach how you're prepared to do for all the generations, all the Emes Aveda. And on a day like at a time with a year like Bo Shvat, we have to make a klolistic Indian in our lives and say that this is a sign, that this I'm doing this, but from now on, this is going to be like it ad infinitum, and this is going to be the Indian from Aveda, the Pashtas, and Beis Hashem, Alidei Zeh, we'll be able to get rid of all the etiquette, the Shmek Tavik, of thinking that the world is a Matthias, but that is the Indian of Aveda Zarah, Bedakis, and knowing that the world is not a Matthias. And Ein Oid Milvadei, only the Eibishter will go take him from Yad with the Rebbe, even before Bo Shvat, into the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, and in a oven from Simchas Olam al Roisheinu.
See you